Hey everybody, Meta here. This is kind of a casual, relaxed kind of commentary video that I want to do real quick. Obviously, most of you have either been subbed to me for either TF2 or session content or what have you, but I actually have quite a few different interesting games right now, and I want to make videos on those topics that interest me most. And currently, as you're seeing right here, I want to talk about Overwatch 2 and their most recent big special event. Unfortunately for me, I don't really have a lot of positive things to say about this whole Battle for Olympus thing. It's kind of a mess, a bouncing nightmare. This is probably going to be one of the more unedited videos. It's really the catharsis video I made about TF2, but this to me is very important because I don't see enough people talking about this. And just trying to gather everything to make this video was a bit of a nightmare, and it really wasn't supposed to be that much of a production. So, I just want to talk about my experience with Overwatch 2 in general, and just sort of on my feelings about the game as a whole. And as this specifically pertains to this event here. Luckily, this isn't going to be a bunch of unstructured nonsense. I actually do have some notes here. Yep, notes here that I will call on whenever I get the chance to. But yeah, let me just briefly talk about Overwatch 2 and how I feel about the game as a whole. Overwatch 2 is a game that I really want to enjoy. I still want to enjoy, but I just kind of struggle with it because I'm mostly a solo queue player. I have friends who play it. I love everything the game has to offer in terms of like a character basis and things like that, but so much about the game is just frustration incarnate. And as someone who mains support characters, and typically plays solo queue, things like comp and even sometimes casual and things like that, they're just so immensely frustrating because of the design decisions made by Blizzard. I understand that older Overwatch suffered from a lot of problems, like no one wanted to play tank, no one wanted to play support, everyone sort of funneled to like 3 or so main characters, and everyone else kind of fell to the background. Everyone had their niches. Obviously, in a game like TF2, where everyone has their own niches, but generally every class could do everyone else's job, just to varying degrees of like competency. Overwatch is very much a game where everything is a rock, paper, scissors match, and if you have a scissors while someone else has a rock, you just lose. Not because you're, by definition worse, and not because you can't deal damage or, heal or anything like that, but it just comes down to the fact of the matter is that these characters are designed to be counterpicked, to be counterplayed. And take, for instance, a character like Kiriko and her matchup with Ana. When it comes down to it, Ana's main gimmick, the main appeal of Ana is that she prevents the enemy from healing, and that guarantees damage. People aren't just going to be able to like hide behind a corner and wait for their Mercy or Zen or whoever to pop them a few healing grenades, and then they're back in the fight, ready to square you off. But Kiriko, her ability to cleanse stats effects, even on a 15-second cooldown, means that she has a lot of leverage against Ana. She can take that fight with Ana, she can risk getting anti-healed, and her damage is much more immediate, so if she's able to get that frag on Ana, it's gone, it's donezo. Both characters are super powerful, and there have been times in the game where I find myself playing Kiriko more than I played Ana, or playing someone like Mercy more than I play Lucio, but I generally find that everyone has their niche. Everyone has their purpose, their role, things like that. And overall, I enjoy the balance of Overwatch from a stance of, hey, if something's not working out for me, maybe it's time to try something else. Maybe it's time to give something else a good old college try, blah, 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 blah. But it still manages to be frustrating because not everyone comes to that game with the same mentality as you. It's a lot like other casual games where it's like, in Fortnite or Rocket League or whatever, you get stuck with bad teammates, you get stuck with a raw hand, and you sort of just have to like take your L and head back to the lobby and think it over. Or maybe, you know, you have to sort of rely on your teammates to pick up your slack. Which is why, you know, things like a deathmatch setting where you don't have to necessarily rely on other people, it would be appealing. It would be sort of appealing if it weren't for the fact that so many of the characters are built to do things other than combat. It's kind of an issue. It's kind of an issue where you have certain characters that are designed for one specific purpose, or sort of like where their main job is to do one thing instead of another. And that affects their ability to sort of contribute in a meaningful way to other places. And I feel like part of that design is kind of the reason why this event has been such a massive failure, because in this event, there are essentially characters that act as counters to each other. More specifically, in the damage category. Pharah, Widow. Widow is specifically a counter to Pharah because the biggest thing in Pharah's kit is her insane mobility. Her ability to just kind of like dominate an entire axis of the battlefield and deal high damage from whatever range she pleases. Widow, high splash damage at whatever range she pleases. So she has an immense amount of power, but she has sort of like, say, the skybox to just roam around and be wherever she wants. That's why so many maps like Eichenwald have like invisible walls and stuff, because if they don't have those walls there, Pharah can just roam and dominate, and it's so much of that is why this game mode has failed to be what it should have been all along. It's like a big casual screw around mode, because that's what some of these like divine abilities, which are basically just souped up ultimates, that's what a lot of these divine abilities want to be, but they fail so hard to be them. And before I jump to the thick of thing, the other thing I want to mention before I jump to like the thick of my ratings and whatnot is that Overwatch 2 also has this problem where they always put through like new characters front and center of all their new things. Every new character, for the Halloween event we had Kiriko, Sojourn, Junker, and Ashe. All of them were basically at the forefront of the thing, even though I felt like Sojourn was really out of place in there. Like, she's just not a DPS that can sort of like work in those tight, cramped hallways of Eichenwald, but they still insisted on putting her there. And even though her damage was noteworthy and helped sort of like boost the team in that game mode, it was still troubling. But yeah, they just have this weird tendency where they want to put all of their new faces up at the front, not without good reason, because obviously that's like advertising 101. You want to put all your new shit up front. You want to advertise all this stuff, including the old stuff. You want to keep everyone at the forefront of the people's mind. But I think with them trying to advertise new characters and trying to put like new skins at the forefront of players' minds, they're really just dragging down the gameplay experience of this one. Which I briefly want to talk about before we get into the actual ranking of these things. If you ever seen a tier list video before, this will be nothing new to you. You know, A is the very cream of the crop, E is in like the dregs of Tartarus, if you will. B, C, D, all this is standard stuff. Standard fare. But before I go on and start spouting my opinions that most of you are going to try and validate, I actually should go ahead and read off some of these stats. I think they're pretty important. Obviously, Battle for Olympus. This is an 8-player free-for-all game mode, running from the 5th of January to the 19th. So I specifically released this about a week after the game mode release, mostly because I want to get my thoughts gathered. I want to give people time to experience things, let all the sweaty tryhards get their rewards out of the way, so people actually want to kind of like experience the mode and experiment and sort of just see just how much they can pull out of these divine abilities. I want to give people time to sort of, let the meta metastasize and see where I'm feeling about it. So yeah. Although I didn't put any of the new skins on the slide itself, I just have the character portraits, I did want to mention that I think the single best skin they added was Junker Queen for Zeus. Zeus Junker Queen. I think Vermatris Poseidon is okay. The Minotaur's Reinhardt is probably one of the better ones, even though I don't think it's very thematic. Roadhog Cyclops is probably the weakest of all of these. Like, it's... I don't understand it at all. Medusa's Widow is probably the runner-up, probably second best. Hades' Pharah is highly questionable, but, you know, questionable design doesn't really make up for, you know, good gameplay, blah, blah, blah. And Lucio's Hermes is probably the third most thematic, but it's still just kind of a mixed bag. But overall, skins, I don't have too much of an opinion on them. I don't really feel too much attachment to these characters. I just enjoy playing the game for what to play the game as. I do on the Battle Pass, as you might see in some of the footage that I placed in the background of this video, but when it comes down to it, I only bought the Battle Pass because I want all this time to feel worthwhile. I want to be rewarded for my time investment. So yeah, I made sort of a pity purchase, and even though I do hate Activision Blizzard as a company, my time's still valuable. And so is the time of all the modelers and designers who worked on these games. The only other thing that I'm not going to make too much of a mention of in this video that I wish I really had more time for is the maps. Chateau Gilliard, Colosseo, Ilios Ruins, Petra. All these maps will definitely color the experience of the game mode. On top of that, just in general, Overwatch characters and maps and all that, they're just very situational, contextual, map-based. So on certain maps, sort of like Colosseo, where the sidelines are a little bit like you have the sort of horseshoe design of the push maps, Widow can kind of get limited value out of Widow just because her sideline only will show maybe half the battlefield, and there's quite a few flanks on Colosseo, so you know, even though her ultimate ability is very strong, very, very strong, Widow, she doesn't get as much value as she could from like maps like Colosseo or Chateau Gilliard, where everyone just congregates in either the wine cellar or in the spawn of the map where you have all the cliffs and whatnot. The map design plays a critical role in how good a lot of these characters are, but overall I would say that it's about 50-50, that half the maps are good for half the characters, and the other half is good for the other half. It kind of is what it is. But the only other thing I want to make note about this game mode, and what I think is kind of strange about it, is that why did they include like weird arena mode style overhealth, like weird arena shooter style pickups? Because like to me that speaks to the game mode being not very well balanced. Because you have essentially a free-for-all deathmatch game mode where the crux of it is that, oh yeah, you want to build ultimate charge fast, you want to get kills, you want to, you know, get into engagements basically constantly. But they recognize that half the cast doesn't have really the health for this, or, you know, they need buffs to really stay competitive, and, you know, half the rest of the cast, their old chart is too slow for the game. It speaks to me that this was kind of a lazy game mode, where it's like, they had the models for the characters, they had, you know, skins, they had an idea of what they wanted to, like, they want to be real thematic with this, and give us some really interesting, like, super ultimate abilities. Like, maybe all this is just, like, little bits and pieces from their PvE expansion they want to bring up in the future, but I gotta say, from what we've seen, these abilities are better off in PvE and never have been added into PvP. Like, I hope that this is either a one-off event, or when they bring it back, they bring it back with a better balance philosophy. But yeah, weird arena shooter style pickup system, kind of a mediocre map pool, nothing unique to the game mode. Just kind of speaks to this being kind of a, not necessarily a rush job, but just not exactly like a high priority. Anywho, I just briefly want to talk about the gameplay changes they made to the characters so they could actually get this game mode into a playable state. So for Matcha, they took 50 health off of his max health, but they let him still keep his like extra armor from Nemesis mode, which makes up more than half of his like base health, which is kind of a big deal. Whereas like if you have an alternate, like when you have an alternate stance, like you know how Dio has with their mech, and that gives you more health than you would for base, that's gonna drag out a lot of fights. But then again, I think of all the characters that has that kind of ability, oh god, Ramacha is definitely one who needs it. We have the in-game blur. Poseidon enters an empowered Nemesis form for 20 seconds, blasting torrents of water with each punch and giving ravenous vortex. Yeah. 20 seconds of uptime for results. The only weird wrinkle to this is that it doesn't tick down. It ticks down continuously, like any other ult, but in the base game, Ramacha's whole thing is that if you're up in the thick of combat, you will essentially never take down your ult until you stop having people to fight. Pummel deals more damage. Vortex pulls people in and then throws them upward, so it's kind of like a juggle ability. I personally have never used Ravenous Vortex, which is a damn shame because I played. Yeah, Ram, he's in an interesting place, but yeah, that's the gist of it. Less health, but he still keeps Nemesis form, so good for him. Junker Queen. I think her health was untouched. I'm fairly certain of that. But most of the changes are mostly in her rampage. Yep. Just becomes charged with electricity for 25 seconds, pulling all weapons and abilities to zap enemies for extra damage. That's another thing I want to comment on about Overwatch 2 as a game, is why don't we have damage numbers? Maybe this is just me like constantly growing up with Valve games. There's the expectation of like transparency, or that community will carefully log out everything, because our wiki is so much more robust than Overwatch's. But why aren't damage numbers in the game? Why is that not a feature that you can turn on? Because that seems kind of important for a game mode like this, where it's extra damage. Whenever I play the game mode and I've ever been attacked by a ulting Junker Queen, it feels like her extra damage is just insta-kills. You get smited. Smitten? Is it smitten or is it smited? Smited. Who knows? But, yeah. The big thing going for Junker Queen is basically kind of like the same thing for Ana, where her ultimate initial hit does anti-heal, which is huge in this game mode, because something that makes any of these characters viable, and puts them in like a league of their own, is the fact that they have sustain. I'm thinking of two people in specific who have a lot of sustain, and that basically shapes their spot in the meta. But yeah, anti-heal, she also heals from inflicting wounds on people, and the damage with the scatter gun has a chance to apply lightning damage to her thing. So overall, only thing different for her base kit is that she deals lightning damage. Cool Capici. Minotaur Reinhardt. A drastic nerf to his health. He's down to 200 health. Obviously, it does get boosted during his ultimate, but it's kind of irrelevant, at least when you hear about the rest of his kit. He still keeps 300 armor, which is a weird thing for him and Rom, is that their health gets dragged down more in line with everyone else's. Like, Rom has the same as Junker, and he has half of theirs. But I mean, I feel like Ryan's health has been more balanced for the mode. It's a weird mix. Then they bump it up to 500, so then he has double of either their base form, so it's questionable. It's entirely questionable, but Fire Strike being bumped up to 100 damage, decent. That means that you can two-shot the squishies, which is lovely because both of them are kind of pain in the ass. But yeah, no, that's good change. It's a good change for this game mode specifically because this game mode can be frustrating. Earth Shatter. Minotaur powers charge 20 seconds. Ability to carry multiple enemies, instantly kills blows or pin. Heals, yeah. Oh, and Killing Blows extends his rampage. This is the defining ability of Reinhardt for this game mode. And it is immensely fun, but also very, very frustrating. Like, if you're a player coming from TF2 and you're like giving Overwatch a try, and sort of like you're curious my thoughts on the game, and this game mode specifically, this is gonna like act as sort of like an impromptu guide as well for the game mode. But if you want to get into Battle for Olympus and you want to have the most fun, play Reinhardt, because not only is Earthshatter a really strong ability, a really strong stun that can just bring people down to your level and give you the chance to sort of catch your breath and get a few good hits in. His charge, learning to master his charge, and the fact that now it does insta-kills all the time, that's going to be where you get most of your fun at. But on top of instilling the target, it also heals Rein, which is huge, and that goes along with his sustainability. And every kill you get extends the timer. Theoretically, this could mean that his ult is infinite for as long as you're alive. But like, just the added benefit that after killing someone with your charge, you basically get it back instantly. Like, all of this is wonderful. This is a great ability, and I feel like a lot of people are sleeping on it. At least a lot of people that I speak to about this event. Next up, the last tank of the bunch, and is kind of the most mixed of the bag. Cyclops Roadhog, my least favorite skin in the bunch, and also my least favorite ultimate ability. 600 health base, so they didn't change anything there. Yep, he greatly increased in size for 60 seconds, doubling his health and converted his weapon to hurling devastating boulders. His ult, the single best part of his ult is his gun. The player size greatly increased. No, that is a massive negative. No pun intended. And the melee deals 5 times damage. I've never noticed this. I've never taken interest in this. I'm not sure if this applies to his hook, or if that's just kind of like the combo or what. But like the fact that it pushes people away means that is no bueno. That is not good at all. But let me just say this much. He needs the double health if he's going to be blowing up to this size. If he didn't blow up to that size, I think it would have been perfectly acceptable to keep it as is, because his boulders cannon is devastating, but I think it's fair enough. Because it is a projectile, it has relatively short range, has a pretty pronounced arc to it, so if you're actually tracking well and you're like getting those boulders on target, or you know, they're within your range, they deserve to get hit. But yeah, pushing enemies away, like these two, half of his abilities, 2/3 of his abilities are detrimental to his gameplay loop. Which is why Roadhog he's not very high up in my rankings. Hades Farah, the probably most shoehorned of all the gimmicks, but also one of the better characters. Her big thing, health doesn't change, none of that changes. But her Rocket Barrage, insane. It is the shortest on paper, 15 seconds, but the fact that it be extended with every kill, like on top of the fact that you still get Rocket Barrage, but you also get the, as they say it in here, after Rocket Launcher, after ulting with Rocket Barrage, Divine Barrage, whatever you want to call it, Rocket Launcher fires 3-headed Cerberus rockets for 15 seconds. Now, I don't know if this is true, but I've taken this to mean triple damage, or at least triple projectiles, and they only use 1 ammo, so that's effectively, like, you're basically getting the quad damage. On top of that, your jump jet consumes way less ammo, or way less fuel, rather. So, in effect, this is just huge for Farah. Farah, who's already, like, a really oppressive character in just, like, casual Overwatch, becomes the queen of being fucking obnoxious. So, yeah. Great changes for Farah. And the fact that she heals on kill. The heal on kill. Yeah, she's... The damages are busted. Speaking of busted damages, Medusa Widow. Neat looking skin. Very cute. I love my cold-blooded ladies, my femme fatales, but scoped headshot multiplayer increased to 300. Not as effective as you would think it would be, because some characters have increased health, some people have less. but they also sometimes get like ridiculous fucking damage numbers and shit like that. It's a mixed bag. That one, I'm sure there's like base Widow mains. That's like a huge deal, or at least that'd be a huge deal if it was brought to the base game. But in this game mode, it's kind of a moot point. The thing that makes this character even somewhat interesting to talk about is her ultimate. Pretty much all of them are made interesting by their ultimate, but Widow's especially. I've had rants to my friends about this ability. People who don't even play this game. But the fact that Infrasight, the wall hack ability, you know, they give us the sniper character so much leverage over the battlefield, also comes with a infinite range hit stun that lets her do 25 extra damage on top of, you know, the triple headshot damage, on top of just the ability, just on top of being able to make someone not be able to interact with you, not be able to engage with you, to turn someone to stone just for looking at her while she's scoped in. And this has the longest ultimate period in the entire mode. Yeah, this alone brings up Widow from being... Let's put it this way. Widow would be definitively the worst character in this game mode if it wasn't for how stupidly overpowered this ability right here is. I can feel my blood, I can feel my everything rising just talking about this. So, let me move on to Lucio so we can just quickly get back to the rankings and actually get to the meat of this tier list. But Lucio, more so than even the damages in this game mode, he is the odd man out. And I've seen so many people split about Lucio's inclusion. Now me, personally, I main support. I know the utility of Lucio. I've seen people do all sorts of crazy shit with Lucio. From my initial, like from the moment I picked up Lucio, I discovered things like skimming and how to sort of like micromanage your amp and things like that. I've always think that Lucio is an amazing character. I think he's fun to play, despite his sort of like lackluster damage. I think that he makes healer engaging in ways that other characters don't. His mobility is basically unmatched horizontally. Like, and the fact that he can boot people away, and that he not only does that, but his boot can kill people at very low health. Lucio is very fun. Very, very fun. It doesn't feel fun to get booped around and stuff like that, and in this game mode, his boop has a short stun if you get bounced into a wall, but it's sort of like Reinhardt in some respects. The wall boop and the charge, the hit detection is very wonky, especially for the fact that people are going to be expecting it, people are going to see you coming, and they're going to be anticipating your interrupts, like at the beginning of the game mode when no one knew what the hell was going on, and you would have Lucio just battering around people to boop them to death. Very annoying, very frustrating, but now when you know to sort of like hold your fire until they go, essentially it's become like a TF2 air blast situation where it's like, oh yeah, I know you can basically cancel my shit whenever you want, so I'm either just gonna not engage or I'm gonna wait for you to make the slip up first. So in a way, Lucio's become more of a Genji character than like he's become more of like a Genji, where it's like, yeah, I'm just gonna wait for you to play your hand so I can actually just go about my day and do whatever the fuck I want. His health boost to 250 largely doesn't make a difference. He does become a little bit more tankier than the damages, which is nice. But I don't think it's gonna like change the fact like his best tool, his best piece of his kit is his ability to run away and heal himself. That is what makes Pharah annoying in this game mode. That is part of what makes Reinhardt so good, even if he's underrated. Like, and that's what makes Roadhog frustrating, regardless of the game mode. Yeah. But in a game mode, first of all, I think just fundamentally we need to discuss that putting a support character like Lucio, who has the weakest damage, who has a 4-round burst weapon with a 20-shot clip, infinite with his ultimate. I didn't bother to speak about his ultimate because it basically just means that he gets an extra 100 damage, excuse me, 100 health. He moves and attacks a little bit faster. He doesn't have to reload. It really doesn't matter too much because Lucio he's not really a threat. He's just a pest. He is an annoying fly. And that's about it. Like, I love Lucio. His design, everything, well, except for the fucking weird hair he has now. But, yeah. The extra health, the extra attack speed, it doesn't really matter to me because all it means is that I need to put a fire strike, like, from Ryan, to get away that extra 100 damage, one fire strike, an extra swing of the hammer. That's maybe an extra second or two in a fight, which does matter, but it's not going to save you as much as, say, Roadhog suddenly becoming twice as chunky as he usually is. Or Ron going Nemesis mode and suddenly be able to, like, deflect 90% of your attacks. Like, he's still just a support in a game mode that is dominated by people who can actually put people down. He's a good kid, but he's surrounded by bandits, thugs, and killers. So, you're just a little bit out of your depth there, buddy. But I think that I've done enough, like, sort of ringing around the rosy about this thing. I think we just need to get started and get to the bulk of the tier list here. So, I'm going to say this right off the bat, is that I don't think any character deserves A tier or E tier. I don't think that's the case for anyone in this game mode. I don't think anyone deserves to be sort of like thrown into the dog pit or what have you. But I definitely think that there's sort of a bell curve, and I know I just know in my heart that unfortunately Lucio, you fall at the bottom of the curve, my friend. Now, some of you might be a little bit upset at this ranking because, you recognize that, like 1 second stun he gets is really good. It makes him viable in this mode. It makes him worth playing. Because, you can interrupt something like Roadhog's heals, or you can knock off a Reinhardt's charge, or if you get lucky enough and they're dumb enough to play in a confined space, you can boop a Fair into, like, the ceiling, and that might interrupt her ult. And yeah, that's fine and all, but for a lot of characters, after they get booped, they still have a gun. A gun that hurts a lot more than his sonic amplifier. And this is actually where some of the last couple pages of my script comes into play here. Like, when we look at some of the rankings for things like this, Lucio is always near the bottom for everything except for mobility, essentially. Like, despite having the extra 50 health and then an extra 100 health, he still only has the third lowest health pool in the game. He's still underneath Junker Queen, he's still underneath Rom, he's still underneath Reinhardt, he's still underneath Roadhog by a mile. Like, even without these extra abilities, even without the armor, without the everything, he still only outclasses these two characters, who outclass him significantly in damage. Like I said, he has one big thing going for him, and that's kind of like the fact that he can wall jump, amp up away. Like, I would say this much, he has peak sustained horizontal mobility. You will never outmatch Lucio in a foot race, but if it's maybe in like in a 5K, but in like maybe a 100-meter dash, maybe someone like Reinhardt or Junker Queen can catch up with him. But yeah, Lucio, consistently, weapon damage is just very pathetic. And some of you might say that, his DPS is good once he stops having to reload because, that reload time cuts into his damage. The thing about a lot of Overwatch weapons is that they don't have particularly long reloads. Of all the characters in this game mode, I think the longest reload is between Rom and Roadhog. Roadhog, especially in this game mode, like, the 5-round clip that he gets is egregious. Because that thing needs to reload all the fucking time. But it deals tons of damage if you know the ideal range to play it. But yeah, we also have things like ultimate duration. Lucio, he's ranking at the bottom of the barrel. 20 seconds is like not an insignificant amount of time. That's nearly, you know, a third of a minute. And in a 10-minute game like these free-for-all matches, that is a significant amount, but I mean, for the amount of effort it takes to build it up for the guy, and for the limited ways he has to get up that damage, it's just not worth it compared to someone else. Because like, even though Pharah has a shorter duration, she can extend it with kills, and she can secure those kills pretty much any range with better mobility than Lucio. Roadhog also has a much weaker ultimate, and on top of that, it has a shorter duration, but I would much rather have Roadhog's ultimate, like, the raw damage of those rocks compared to Lucio's just infinite ammo. And sure, he might be harder to hit. Sure, he can run away real good, the best in the business in running away. But it just comes down to, like, he's a Shaggy situation, where it's like, yeah, being a coward may mean you live, but you're not going to be at the top of the leaderboard if you always run away from a fight. It's a fight-based game mode, and yeah, Lucio, top of sustainability because, you know, he can heal. He's got that heal on demand. Wherever he wants to, he can amp up those heals, but that comes at the cost of his mobility. And when it comes to a fight, if you're running away or you're healing, ideally you want to heal from your attacks. You want to heal from your kills. So which is why you see other people appear in terms of sustainability. Like Roadhog, his fucking breather is still insane. Just outright ridiculous. Rhine, Pharah, both of them are pretty high up there because they have their kill on hill. Junker Queen, I did put above Pharah, but that's just because I think that thing like Gracie and the Carnage or whatever, they're just a little bit more sustainable because sometimes Pharah doesn't know how to secure. At least I don't know how to play her because I'm not a Pharah main at all. But yeah, stuns, knockbacks, like Lucio's middle of the pack. His only insta-kill option is just to boop, and pretty much anyone can knock someone off a cliff in this game mode. So yeah, Lucio, he isn't built for the free-for-all mode, and I kind of tired of people trying to justify it for me. But even though Lucio isn't really built for this mode, I still won't say that he's bad. You can still get kills, you can still sort of dominate, and if you get enough people on the Lucio train, then yeah, you're gonna be quite an obnoxious little guy, but yeah. He just doesn't belong here. Sorry, man. But, funnily enough, someone else who also doesn't belong in this game mode would be our very nice friend Rom, who is also going in this tier. Now, some of you might be saying that, oh, he's Reinhardt's counter. You know, just like how Widow is Pharah's, you know, he punches through shields, he breaks through shields. He's Reinhardt's counter. He is that guy. He ain't that guy. Reinhardt, at least in the free-for-all game mode that I've played, in the matches I've played, Reinhardt only needs to pull out his shield when he's engaging with these two. This one can fly overhead and pester him and just generally be an obnoxious little obnoxious little prick. You know, just will him down. This one, other than her ultimate, which is just aggressively broken, she is the one who gets fucked over by Reinhardt the most because he can use that shield to close the gap on her, and all she can really do is hope that someone else runs up behind him and like kills him before he eventually reaches her. Reinhardt's a scary motherfucker in this game mode, and it'd be wise not to like overlook him for all the other people. Like Reinhardt's great. I won't overlook Reinhardt. Reinhardt's a good man. He's a good fella. But Rom lacks the ability to take on Reinhardt. He lacks the ability to stop that man. Yeah, he can punch through shields with his pummel, and pummel does do good damage, especially in his ult form. But it's still slower to kill than Reinhardt's hammer. It's still slower to kill than Roadhog's his shotgun, his scrap gun. It's still slower to kill than Junker Queen's Scattergun and Gracie and all those things, because she can bleed him out slow. She can bleed him out, and she's gonna be constantly healing from her abilities and like getting stab-ins, like melees on her. Melee on Junker Queen is really underrated, and not just like Carnage, but like just getting like a little cheeky poke. But yeah, no. She can bleed him out and wait for his Nemesis mode to go away, and then once he's back to his like base form, as we'll see down here, Rom, he has no sustainability. He has nothing going for him. He has no stuns, no good knockbacks, except for Ravenous, which mostly works to slow down Lucio, so haha, another another notch above for these two. But he doesn't even have really like a good insta-kill either. So it's kind of a situation where it's like he's not really built. He isn't really built for these fights. He's kind of more just like in a thick with his team. He doesn't really strike out on his own. Let's see. He does have like a really decently length ult period. Unfortunately, he doesn't have any way to extend it, which would really set him like push him closer to like the mid range. Like Reinhardt, Rom, Lucio, they all have like the average ult duration, with Reinhardt getting the coveted extension ability. But Rom, like, I mean, he does have an area effect thing, but it's all based off line of sight. So if you can't, see his body, his ultimate doesn't really matter. And if anything, he just gives away his position, which means he's easy pickings for, again, these two fuckers. And his base form, even though it does have poke damage, and like if you're willing to track, you can put out some decent damage on these people and like shred some people even. But it's all far too slow in a game mode where it's all about killing, and preferably killing quick. So unfortunately, you're kind of same boat as Lucio. Your damage is too low. Your like ability to scrap and to fight is too weak. You just don't really belong in the mix. But you're also not weak enough. Like your ult is still good enough that you can compete. It's just not up to snuff. You need too much support, buddy. This is your support, and this is your anchor. You two were made for each other. All right. Now, what's going to be more difficult about this is going to be like picking the middle of the pack, because again, so much of this comes down to like contextual based things, but I think if between these two, excuse me, between these two, the next person that I could probably see being right at the bottom of the tier list with you guys would have to be Roadhog. Unfortunately, Roadhog is just, he isn't up to snuff. He is not up to snuff. His ultimate ability is such a massive drag because, on top of the size increase being a massive detriment because you are a big glowing man who is literally emanating with power, so making you an even bigger prime target. It's not like a Rom ult or a Pharah ult where you have like sort of splash damage to ward away people who might think that, oh yeah, I'm just gonna run up behind him and like get a couple stabs in or something like that. Like people will just whittle you down from afar. People just poke you. Like Lucios will poke at a Roadhog ulting from across the map, because your hitbox is so massive and your health pool is so big that even if you aren't getting hurt by this, even if like my damage isn't gonna kill you, it's still going to weaken you up for somebody else. It's still going to soften you up, and you're eventually going to die if you don't, get to a breather in time. And yeah, that's pretty much the one good use for Lucio's boop in this game mode, is like to counter Roadhog's ability to take a breather. And that's just because, despite his ultimate not being very good, because it's all the way here at the bottom. Hello. I'd still say that Roadhog still got decent. He's still decent to scrap. Like his down here, his hooks, even though they're still in their usual cooldown, they still do enough damage that you can really fuck somebody up. You can still tear people down, and you can still just kind of like get in people's ass with his hook, and especially with his scrap gun. Like if there's another Roadhog on the map and you two can do a scrap, you definitely want to like play around their breather. You really want to get in there, get some meat shots, get some good meat in there, and just blow them away. Because that is going to be your ideal 1v1. It's going to be these two or other Roadhogs. He can get in scraps with everybody else, but he's less likely to win up against like a Rhine, because if that Rhine is ulting, you're bacon bits. Like the Pharaoh will stay out of your reach, and if you're able to like get that hook on her, then she's donezo. Same for Widow. But that's kind of your thing, is that you're a shotgun character. Both of you, most of the characters here are short range, but then they let the two like proficiently long range damages into this game mode to totally throw everyone off, basically counter everyone else, and he suffers the most because he just has no way to poke back. It's really pitiful. So, on top of that, Reinhardt's ult is just so much superior to yours. It is the superior hook. So yeah, no. You fall flat, buddy. But you're not a bad guy. Oh my god, this video's dragging on. Okay, let's try to pick this pace up a little bit. Who goes next up in line? I would say Widow. Widow is probably the next worst character. Not because her ult is bad, like, trust me. Like, the reason Widow is on top, the reason Widow matters at all, despite her having the lowest health in the game, despite her having basically next to no mobility, despite everything, despite her her insight, her ability to see you from across the map and to dog you out, is what makes her special. She could literally be like a CCTV camera on the map, not be able to move whatsoever. But if she were able to like keep up her ult infinitely, you would still hate her. She would still probably top score. That is how strong her stun ability is. All you need to do is look at her for maybe a second, maybe a half second even at that. I'm pretty sure I have some footage clips that I want to slice in here of just Widows just like barely peeking out, barely getting a glimpse of her fucking sniper glint, and basically getting rights to murder me on the spot. It's actually just the dumbest shit. It is the dumbest shit. But outside of her ultimate ability, Widow is a worse Pharah in this game mode, because Pharah is a glass cannon, whereas Widow is a skill cannon. If you can aim as Widow, if you can sort of like melt people down, you will have a fun time, so long as the map allows you to have a fun time. As long as you can make opportunities and like get cheeky plays on people. But since it's a free-for-all game mode, even if you're able to like spot down one person, you still have 6 other people to melt before you die. Widow's just more tailored for the team experience, the team play, and oftentimes people will just run behind you as Widow and just bully you or push you off the map, or they'll just kind of like put you in a corner and force you to use your SMG, which it is not built for combat, or at least my style of combat. It's very tracking based. It's very much like a sniper using SMG in TF2. It ain't for me. So me personally, I recognize that Widow is probably the only character that deserves A tier. Probably. But me, and my skill level, and my personal experience with Widow, she's just middle of the pack. She could be A. You know what? As symbolic. Well, if I remember how to duplicate things, and nah, I'm not gonna worry about it. Later on. But yeah, Widow, she's a menace. I want to put one more person in the middle tier, and I don't really know which of these three deserve it. Because in some ways, I feel like all of them could be oppressive if given the right context. Any of these characters could dominate if playing against reasonably bad people. But I think if any of them I want to put into the middle, it would have to be the Queen. It just might have to be Junker Queen. And that's not to say Junker Queen is bad, because look at the notes. Junker Queen, she's got on par health, a little bit weak, a little bit sad at times. Her mobility is pretty much limited horizontal entirely. Her damage, at least in my opinion, is not really that great. It's barely over the bottom two. But her ultimate's great. That anti-heal, again, another way that people just absolutely shit on Lucio, and it's not even funny. Pretty much shit on everybody, because that shuts down her heal and kill. That shuts down his ability to take a breather. And these two, they don't have any ways, like, they have no sustainability. They gotta run over health packs or the pickups or something, but her ultimate totally shuts down everybody except for I think Reinhardt. I think Reinhardt's the only exception to that. But other than that, the thing that keeps Junker Queen back at times is just like her lack of stuns and her lack of insta-kill ability. Like, sure, Gracie can pull people out of position and bring them in situations they don't want to be in. And yeah, insta-kill can like help finish off some people that you weren't really getting down, but like the thing that really keeps Junker Queen down is that she can maintain a fight, but sometimes she fails to finish, which I think is also something issue with her as well. I would love to talk more about Junker Queen, but I think Pharah is the character that most people are going to be interested in hearing my thoughts about. Pharah as a character in this game mode can either be aggressively oppressive or painfully mediocre. I don't necessarily like Pharah as a character, not because I think she's bad, or I don't like, her, or for whatever faces, or what, I don't know. There's no reason I dislike Pharah except for the fact that she basically breaks the flow of combat on consoles. She is such a drastic change from everyone else that it feels like everything has been tailored to Pharah. or nothing happens. Pharah is a character that just you either play for or you don't see at all. That's why we have so many Mercy Pharahs who fucking terrorize the console scene, because especially as a support, her only real option is to like play Baptiste or play Zen and hope that you can track her movement in the air. But like, so long as she has jump jet, so long as she has like her jetpack, her booster shot, whatever, she can outmaneuver your aim whenever you don't have hit scan. And yeah, learning to predict Pharah is something you will gain over time, but if you think it's bad enough trying to get a beat on Pharah in a team setting where you have communication and people that can call out and shit like that, she is infinitely worse in a free-for-all setting where half the time everyone else is aiming a gun at you. You may be aiming a gun at that one Pharah, but you have 6 guns pointed at you as well. Not including the Pharah, who might be aiming at you and jostling you around, knocking your aim off, and everything like that. She just has the ability to turn any situation to, an unwinnable situation for the opposite player. And on top of that, her infinite mobility puts her out of range of all the tanks except for Rom. Yeah, he can 2-shot a Pharah with Fire Strike, but that's still a projectile that you can finesse if you're good at Pharah, or that you can tank with some overshield. Rom is the only person that threatens you with his Gravitas Vortex and his, shrapnel shots and whatever, and even his ultimate pummels. But he's still lousily equipped to handle Pharah, at least in my opinion. Oh, on top of that, her ult is I've called it mediocre down here, but really it's like interchangeable with Junker Queen. But yeah, no. I've also, again, her and Junker Queen are kind of like neck and neck in my opinion, but Pharah, she can get some decent utility out of her ult, even though it's really short. Like, if you're able to sort of like capitalize on that triple damage, and you can sort of like rack up some bodies, you never have to leave the sky as Pharah. And her barrage is great for just wiping out one or two people, and sometimes yourself, if you don't really know how to play it smart. But Pharah is just... She can be a menace. She can be a menace, and sometimes there's no good way to take her down except for just going Pharah as well, and getting into those really weird dogfights. It's hard to do anything with Pharah except for just kind of like watch her go to work and cry from afar. But by process of elimination, that means even though Pharah I think is utterly broken and makes the game mode unfun half the time, she still isn't the best character. I still think that Grandpa here is just as good. And Reinhardt kind of plays the background in this video because even though he doesn't have like the single best stats in any respect, like he only has like slightly above average movement, his armor is still second to Roadhog, and his damage is only, third place behind I can shoot you from across the map and instantly kill you, or I can get up in your face and instantly kill you. I still think Reinhardt, in his ideal damage range, where he's just in your face, throwing down that beat with his hammer, man is scary. Man is genuinely scary. And on top of that, his ult, even though it's just average, you can easily extend it to Junker Queen or Widowmaker levels just with a couple kills. And you still get Earth Shatter, so you can easily get those extensions. Especially with your ability to, would you look at this? Instantly kill people with your charges. And on top of that, every person you kill with your charge adds a timer. It heals you and it reduces your charge cooldown to half a second. So effectively, if you had, and this is like the same, this is like the, this is for like TF2 players. This is how Solarlight will manage to get infinite charge by running over full ammo packs with a Persian Persuader. That is that, but for Reinhardt. And that can be amazing. But the other thing that makes Reinhardt so much more interesting than the rest of these characters is that on top of his ability to just body people, I didn't even mention his Earth Shatter down here with his Stonebugs and Stuns. No, I still don't think that puts him over Widow, but Reinhardt, on top of like all of it, I didn't even mention the charge. There's so much to the charge. There's so much nuance and greatness that can be achieved with a charge. There's so much glory in the Minotaur that I think that having that guaranteed insta-kill, but has so much flexibility to it and heals you and has so much going for it, it's hard to deny that Reinhardt doesn't have a bit of everything. He has movement, he has sustainability, he has damage, he has everything in his kit. The only thing that Reinhardt really lacks is the range to really tackle some of these deadlier threats. Like Sarah specifically, she makes Reinhardt's life very difficult. I think Widow's ultimate goes through shields, but other than that, she gets pretty screwed over by him and his shield. Like, he can just turn a 1v1 into an instant win just by closing that gap on him. And not a lot of these characters have the ability to run away effectively. Roadhog, he'll just get his belly drummed on by the Hammerman. Junker Queen, she'll give him a run for his money. Sometimes she'll even win the fight, but Ryan, if he has his ult up, all of you are in smacking distance, and all of you are gonna get it. All you are gonna get the hammer. And I've seen lobbies of just Reinhardts going back and forth, Minotaurs, just charging each other. Even if they don't have their insta-kill up, they're just charging into each other. And just hearing all the it's great. It is nothing short of glorious. But yeah, Reinhardt, unlike Farah, he makes the game worth playing. He's a fun one, and I recommend anyone play the mode, if only to experience Reinhardt Mania. But yeah, that's this video. That's all I have to say about the matter. I can probably make more tier lists in the future. I can probably make more Overwatch content in the future as well, if there's demand for it, but, you know, if we really have to, like, you know, as a token of, like, how much I appreciate him making the game more fun, I'm gonna put him up in 8 rank, just because I love the guy. Reinhardt is my favorite character in Overwatch, so, yeah. That's my bias. There we go. But yeah, that's my thoughts on Overwatch's Fight for Olympus event. Hopefully some of you enjoy. Hopefully some of you can, like, take away some, you know, some insight in this video. Mostly that if you're gonna play any of these characters, you definitely want to favor the old man, the rocket girl, or the edgy mommy. But yeah, I think Overwatch Battle for Olympus is a game mode that is just strife with poor decision making. Like down here, I have a whole section dedicated to the challenges because I did want to make this sort of a guide video, sort of like a, hey, if you're just now getting to the game mode, this is sort of like a guide for you to like get into it. When it comes down to it, there's not really much to talk about with challenges. You either have to get 25 final blows with your ult, which for some of these characters, you know, anyone above C tier, pretty easy. Most of their ults are pretty good, especially Jungle Queen, who I haven't really mentioned, but I think her zap is basically like, it's basically like an insta-kill. I feel like her zap's an insta-kill. I can't really confirm that, but I feel in my spirit that her zap is an insta-kill. Regardless, if I were to make this list like any more exaggerated, I'd probably put him down here, him over here, and then her over in B tier. But yeah, I feel in my spirit that this game mode has a lot of issues, specifically with balance, and specifically with like making the character rewards and things like that. They're making them more personalized. But overall, I'd still like to see more adventures into these kind of like alternative game modes in Overwatch 2, where I can have more fun. I don't have to worry about just being a slave to the meta or anything like that. I just want this game to be more fun, to be less serious, to be less choky, to feel less like every time I play here, I'm either pissed off because my team isn't protecting me, or my team doesn't know how to follow up on opportunities I made. It's a mixed bag, Overwatch 2, and if things keep going the way they are with monetization and the whole support of the game, I don't know how long I'll be sticking on, but this is something I want to make. This is something I basically felt in my spirit I need to make. But yeah, I hope that everyone enjoys the content. I hope everyone sort of like enjoys the consistent uploads and things like that. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. Thanks for watching. Thanks for humoring me. And yeah, I guess I'll see you in the next one. This next one will be much more edited than this one. Planned for the next TF2 case review is still in the works. I'm not sure if I'm going to be trying to do it like as a weekend thing, or if it's going to come out in the middle of next week, but it is definitely coming within the next 2 weeks. Session montages are up on the board right now. I have a couple songs picked out. I'm also looking at new music. My brother's helping me out with that sort of thing. Looking at a lot of alt rock, looking at a little bit of nerd rock. There's 2 specific songs I definitely want to do. That's in the rap genre right now. Danny Brown, Travis Scott, those are kind of the 2 guys I'm looking at right now. Last thing I want to say, I want to wrap up before I finish this video. Mixtape, animation, things like this. I definitely want to try my hand in like doing a rough animation before the end of the month. I know January kind of goes by quick, and we're up to, good lord, the 12th already. But yeah, no, there's a lot on the horizon. There's a lot of like fun content I want to do while I have like a little bit of downtime, while I'm in between jobs. But once I find a job, once I get myself sorted out, I still want to keep up content for you guys, at least on a weekly basis. But for right now, I hope you're enjoying like the daily, bi-daily, however many days in between uploads. But this video's already dragged on long enough. It's probably killing my gigabyte space, my hard drive space. But yeah, thanks and goodbye.